So here's the big point behind this is the color magenta is actually not real. I know that we all perceive it, I know that we all see it, but the color magenta is actually not real. It's actually a space holder it's something our brain makes up so that we pretend to see things that we can't. Magenta, yes. So it's a chroma. It's called a chroma, and actually it's, for us, there are wavelengths that we can't actually perceive. Bees can, but we can't. So when I learned this little fact, it freaked me out a bit, and I was like, oh my God, and it threw me into a full-on existential crisis because I began wondering, what other perceptions have I had that weren't in fact real? So, naturally, I wrote a poem about it. So here is my poem called My Magenta Existential Crisis. The color magenta is not real. It's true, I'm not joking. Magenta is a chroma our brains create to fill in the blank spaces left behind by colors we can't perceive. It's the ghost of colors denied, a whisper of the void we can recognize but can't quite observe. I discover this fascinating and axis-tilting factoid in the early AM hours of another sleepless night, and it sends me down rabbit holes, through Reddit threads, and into a tailspin. I'm suddenly struck with a series of if-then prompts as my brain desperately scrambles to analyze the meaning of this new input. At the end of my computations, I'm left with one undeniable and rather existential line of logic. Much of my existence has been, will be, is not real, concrete, solid, factual. My own little "the cake is a lie" moment. Kafka would be proud. And so I'm left to ponder. How many of my memories, my experiences, my emotions, my thoughts, my dreams, my hopes, my motivations have been color washed in magenta, created and crafted by a constrained brain, filling in the blank spaces like some hobby store paint by numbers art kit? There's a reason none of the masters painted with magenta. No, Michelangelo, Rembrandt, and Vermeer, Da Vinci, Van Gogh, and Rubens all ornamented their plasters and canvases with real, reliable, and true red, yellow, and blue, stalwart and sensible hues, combined to convey the intricacies of the human condition, depicting, delineating, divulging the maelstrom of mortality, hanging on medium gray art gallery walls behind burgundy velvet ropes. And yet, the centerpiece of the private collection contained in the gallery of my heart, ensconced, enshrined, encased in an ornate gilt frame, perhaps my most prized possession, is a painting of pure magenta, capturing a casual comment from my husband on our wedding day, later gifted to me secondhand after his death. There are no tones of red or yellow or blue here, nothing recognizable or solid or certain, just half-made brushstrokes hinting of hidden forms. My cherished memorialization of someone else's memory, completely composed of various shades of nebulous magenta. Because, you see, green and cyan magenta, magnificent magenta, are the pigments of LEDs and printer cartridges and dyes, the tints and blushes of light and of life. So as I trip through the tangled tempest and messy metaphors of my magenta existential crisis, and either evolve or devolve like Picasso from realistic reflections to loose lines and vague shapes, I begin to wonder, maybe, just maybe, real or not, if magenta might be my favorite color. So Jay asked me if I could bring a poem tonight about mental health because it is Mental Health Awareness Month. So I said, well, I don't have one that's actually fully about mental health, but I have one that is about grief that I can share. And this is in the working notebook, right? You'll notice it's different notebook. So this one is in progress, so please don't judge me too harshly on this one. No more colors. It's no more colors. You're right, no more colors. This one is an ode, and if you know what an ode is, it's a long poem that is in praise of something. So sometimes it's in big praise, and sometimes, like in this case, it's in praise of something, but not necessarily something that you like or love. So, and again, it's a work in progress. So this one is entitled Ode to My Noisy Ass Neighbor. And I guess I should give you just a little bit of background. So I'm a widow, and my noisy ass neighbor actually lost a child about a year and a half before I lost my husband. So that's enough context, I think, for it. All right, so Ode to My Noisy Ass Neighbor. It's 2:49 a.m., and the whir of your power drill grates against my raw last nerve as it breaks the cricket song of the starless night. Ugh, you're at it again, rattling around in your toolbox, tinkering and toying around with some inane project, while the sane people of the neighborhood are slumbering peacefully away. I'd like to say it's you that's keeping me up, making it impossible to sleep, but we both know that would be a lie. Your use of the quietest power tools, soft thumps and thuds, are no more to blame for my sleeplessness than my chain smoking and the scratch of my pen in my notebook are for your inability to find the solace of sleep. My therapist tells me with time it gets better. But you and I know that's a misrepresentation. Grief is a strange force, not unlike the tides, powerful, often predictable, enhanced by the slightest change in environment, leaving you with no choice but to accept its inevitability and adjust the best you can as it relentlessly changes the landscape. I don't even like you because you're kind of a dick, but I must admit, there's some kind of comfort in your company. As we both exist in our private and adjoining kingdoms of grief, separated by a 6-foot privacy fence, we've become such fixtures here, you on your back deck, me on my kitchen porch, the possum doesn't even notice us anymore as he traverses between our realms of restlessness. Yeah, the comfort you afford is much like unflavored Greek yogurt, sharp and thick and rather unsatisfying, but sustaining nonetheless. And I'll gladly take it, because while I'm alone and you're alone, at least we're alone together. Tomorrow, in the light of day, our eyes will meet as we both head out to work, hollow and haunted. You'll grunt some greeting and I'll offer a chin raise, and we'll go our separate ways. And yet, when the clock rolls over to 2 a.m. again, I will be no more surprised to hear the whir of your drill than you will be to smell my cigarette smoke, as we both wage private battles, unwilling comrades in arms in a war we both know we cannot win. So fight on, neighbor warrior. Pummel our foe with your artillery of your hand tools and projects, and I will bombard our enemy with volumes of words carried on the wind via wisps of cigarette smoke. And my last one of the night is a sonnet. So Jay complained about my poems not rhyming, which is completely accurate. I mean, there's rhyme here and there and some slant rhyme, but typically my poems do not rhyme because I write in free verse. So I wrote a poem for him because he said, write something that rhymes, Holly. So I wrote a poem for him that rhymes. And not only did I write one that rhymes, because he made mention of those who can't do, teach. And I didn't appreciate that very much because I'm in education. So I decided, so I decided that I was going to write it in sonnet form. And if you know anything about sonnets, they are possibly the most prescriptive form. You have to write it in iambic pentameter, which requires 10 syllables per line, and it's unstressed and stressed, and there's a rhyme scheme that goes with it, and it can only be 14 lines, and it's super, super prescriptive, which is why Shakespeare has a whole sonnet category named after him, because he was the master of it. So to prove that I did. So here it is. And I named it Sonnet Singularity because sonnets are named, they're given numbers. So Sonnet 1 or Sonnet 118, etc. And then, of course, the singularity, if you know anything about astrophysics, it's a black hole. It's where gravity is so intense that it tears everything apart. So, all right. This is Sonnet Singularity. Better? Okay. A friend sits down, glances at me, and whines, "Holly, won't you write a poem that rhymes?" Alas, dear friend, I really could, you see, but then that poem, it would not be me. I would likely become structure strangled, finding myself rhyme scheme entangled, tripping over my own iambic feet, struggling to find the necessary beat. Order narrowing my scope of diction, parameters causing only friction, confining my expressionary choice, muting my hard-won autonomous voice. No, verse, messy, chaotic, wild, and free, those are the lines, my friend, that speak of me.